and just taking indeed nature, the very beauty itself, and to be re-energized in that kind of space. And yes, Julian, remember that you're on air, so don't go off there too far. All right. So viewers, yes, we just want you to enjoy that space, certainly making it possible here as we continue to bring you, the spaces and sites here within Tobago. Let me give a quick shout out to some persons joining us on the live. I see Rhea Richardson George, wherever you are out there. Morning to you, Rhea. Giselle Donaldson Yates, Shaquille Jones, Denise Phillips, my cousin out there, QK Melville, Marilyn Spence, Janelle, Keeve, Brenda. We want to say morning to each and every one of you, and thank you so much for continuing to tune in and for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show. Viewers, at this point, we head on into our interview with Dr. Faith B. Israel, Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary with responsibility for the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. This morning, as we speak, the Tobago COVID-19 update. Morning to you, Dr. Faith.
Good morning, Julian. It's wonderful being here, and that is a really nice shot to start the morning. That shot at the main ridge.
And let me delve off a little bit before we get in, folks. I had the benefit of being at a session yesterday with Dr. Faith, the Caribbean Youth Leaders Summit, health and wellness. Let's start from that point. How critical and important is that in the broader sense of things? And I'm not speaking here THA, government responsibility, private doctors, etc., but one's personal health and wellness and basic things that people can do, to just maintain that sanity. I really enjoyed that session.
Thank you so much. And I actually really enjoyed being there with the young folks, having a discussion about us really collectively, holistically thinking about wellness, and not just thinking about us not having a disease, but thinking about all the facets of life that can cause you to be well. That includes financial wellness. It includes occupational wellness, actually loving your job. It includes emotional wellness. Yes, it also includes physical wellness, but it includes all of these other things. And it was really nice having that conversation with the young people. I'm so proud of them. I am so proud of all of them. You looked at all of them there yesterday, the names that we see growing up in front of our eyes. And, I coming out of that, I thought, Tobago in a good place, We have some young people that coming up that I think would do a really, really good job, and they showed out, and it's going to be a continued wonderful session.
Excellent. And, Dr. Faith, today we're talking about the Tobago COVID-19 update. And, just as you made the point, looking at the comparison, is this now a reality that we're going to have to continue living with the understanding, that life goes on? Things have got to happen, and we can't just be focused on the disease itself. We heard the Prime Minister, make the pronouncements yesterday, reminding us more so about personal responsibility. Tell us about your thoughts.
Certainly. Well, the Prime Minister echoed what my colleagues and I have been discussing. We've actually been having COVID-19 meetings and ensuring that, given what was happening, because, you look at the news, you saw things happening in China last week, and people started getting a little iffy, and people started talking about there's this new thing that might be coming around, and whether it's going to be bad, and what is the Prime Minister going to say? What shirt is he going to wear? We had that thing last time, whether it was going to be at midnight tonight kind of situation. But I was not surprised by what he indicated, because it really follows the science, meaning that, yes, we are at a point where we now have an endemic, meaning it's not even, I would actually move a little beyond endemic, because it's not even really high, but constant. But it is now something that we have to live with, which is one of the reasons we made a decision at the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection to actually stop releasing the weekly reports, because I am sure most people weren't looking at them anyway. We still look at them. For example, I still see every morning when I wake up the information for the night before, so that is still sent and that is still analyzed, and we are still critically looking at it. But it's because we've been critically looking at that we made the decision to not continue publishing it, because people are not paying attention. So and that allows us to do something else. If there is something that needs to be highlighted, that if you see a report coming out of the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, it's something that you need to pay very close attention to. So if you see us bring that back, that we've been looking at the trends and we're saying, look at this, people, pay attention to this because we are going in a particular direction. The other thing that the Prime Minister indicated was where we've also been in terms of going back towards a hybrid system within the healthcare setting. What we've been pushing for the last 2 or 3 years was really a parallel system where we were totally separating our COVID-19 patients. We were sending them up to the fort and taking them away completely from our regular hospital, so to speak. But what we are moving towards is really ensuring that we have our infection and control protocols within the hospitals, so we do not necessarily have to send COVID patients to the fort. We can have them incorporated in our regular healthcare system, but ensuring that we follow all of the protocols so that COVID doesn't spread and that kind of thing. So that is where the nation is. That is where Tobago is as well. We are moving in that direction.
We heard yesterday the UWI professor, Christine Carrington, identify 4 cases of the Omicron variant having been detected in this country. Have any been in Tobago?
So the way it's done, I think we need to be very clear. I heard someone say recently that we have a new strain and so forth. That is not the case. What we have is a sub-variant of Omicron. What does that mean? We've had Omicron since last year. The one just before Omicron was the Delta, which is where in 2021, December, we came to the end of that just as I came in as Secretary for Health. That's where we had the really high deaths and really high hospitalization. That was in December 2021. But since 2022, we've really transitioned over to the Omicron, variant, and this is just a sub-variant of Omicron. What they do is actually just pull samples of it. The fact that we've had some means we have it. So we don't really need to think about whether we've had 1 in Tobago or 2 in Tobago. We have it circulating. And Omicron is still the predominant strain, in essence, that is circulating in Trinidad and Tobago. What's critical to note, though, is that this particular subvariant, and I don't want to use the wrong term, this particular subvariant, the XBB.1.5, that particular subvariant has 2 important criteria that we need to be conscious of. One is that it is actually more infectious, meaning you can get it, but don't worry. You can get it, but what we are also seeing is that even if you get it, you are not feeling sick. Which means our bodies have evolved, the virus itself has evolved a little bit, and we are getting to the point where, yes, you can get it, but for the vast majority of people, you're not even feeling sick, which means you're not being hospitalized, which is where the problem comes in. You're not filling our ICU, which is again where the problem comes in, and you're not really dying from it. So it's, even though it is more infectious, meaning you can get it, we are not too worried, because even if you get it, it is not making you sick. And as a matter of fact, what we've recognized is that a lot of the people who we've identified as having COVID, it's because they came into the hospital for something else, and because we're doing routine COVID, so they're not coming with flu symptoms, nothing, they're not feeling sick in that regard. They're coming because their hand is broken, and because we are doing routine COVID testing anyway, we find out, oh, you have COVID. But that is not why you were there. You are not sick with COVID.
So in those cases where you're not sick, and I want to, and you can clarify, you may still be able, in terms of others contracting. What's the process still being utilized, or the protocol, so long as you are identified on those routine checks at the hospital? So
yes, it means you can still transmit it, but what happens after you transmit it is not as concerning, which is the point, and that is why we are moving towards the regular system, going back to the hybrid system. So even if you are found in the hospital, then we just make sure that we're using our mask, which you should be using anyway if you are working in the hospital. Probably put you in a separate space, but so we're not necessarily taking you from Scarborough General and sending you up the fort, waiting for you to get better up the fort before treating the broken hand that you come in with. We are ensuring that we are actually still treating the broken hand, because that is why you came, and you ensuring that our infection prevention protocols are in place to prevent you from getting sick, to prevent you from infecting others or having any of the doctors or nurses get sick. So it's really moving towards that direction. Remember before, once you got COVID, we would kind of stop everything.
Correct.
Put you aside, yes, make sure that you're okay, but kind of stop everything. And then when you got over the COVID, start back your other treatment. Because we recognize again, what is happening now is not that severe. We're not getting very sick, and we are now having to learn to live with COVID. We're moving towards not stopping everything, but continuing treatment, because that is what is necessary. That's where we are in the situation.
Bearing in mind, once again, our frontline workers, healthcare workers, continue to be top priority. Have those bonuses been paid to all our healthcare workers that would have been promised and sent to the Tobago House of Assembly? We want to be sure.
You know what is funny?
What's the update on that?
You know what is funny? We were getting cussed left, right, and center about the money not being paid. Everybody messaging me, Faith, when we get our money, when we get our money. A couple people messaged after they got it and said thank you. I can't remember seeing many of them posts on Facebook, yes, we get our money. The way they was cussing me. That's the reality of the circumstance. That is human nature. The staff at the 𝐴𝐻𝐴, all of them, as long as they were eligible, got their monies. Of course, I think there were a couple hiccups with a couple who maybe not working there anymore, changed bank accounts, so it bounced back from, sending it to the wrong bank account and that kind of stuff. But the folks at the 𝐴𝐻𝐴, they got all of their, they got that.
As we prepare to close this morning's interview, your words, your admonition, your encouragement to the people of Tobago and all those viewing.
Certainly. Well, the thing is, we've been saying the same thing for the last 3 years. COVID is still with us, yes, and we are really telling you to do the same things we've been asking you to do over the last couple of years, which is wash your hands. I've seen places where we're not washing and sanitizing our hands as much. You all go back to that. Let me tell you why you need to go back to that, because we are having situations where people are getting gastrointestinal issues, and it's because they're not washing their hands. So wash all your hands for me, please. If you are in one of the categories where you probably are have comorbidities, meaning you have a whole lot of other illnesses and so forth, and you're going into a space that has other people, plenty people, you keep wearing your mask. The COVID-19 vaccines are still available for individuals who want to get vaccinated. They are still there. So you keep doing the things we've been asking you to do. If you know that you are one of those people who are, you're sickly and that kind of thing, then you don't necessarily need to go to the mass gathering places, because even though everyone else may be fine, if they get COVID, because of the situation with you may not necessarily be fine. And we do have a few. For example, right now, the CEO just sent to me that we have actually 2 people in the hospital who have COVID still. Of course, that is compared to the 10s and 20s and 30s that we used to have before. We have very limited numbers now, and they are pretty close to being sent home and that kind of thing. So continue washing your hands, continue wearing your mask, particularly if you're going into this carnival season we're going into, and we are going to have more gatherings. You keep wearing your mask. The COVID-19 vaccines are still there for you to take. So you take your personal precaution. It's just not being mandated by the state.
All right. Thank you very much, Diana. Quick question coming in, Dr. Faith. We know the last time you were on, and recently we had Senator Lawrence as well, asking about the follow-up in relation to the ministry based on the submissions for the appointment of the 𝐴𝐻𝐴 board. Where are we at very quickly? So
the last I got from the office of the president last week is that they had done their due diligence and they had sent it back to the cabinet secretariat. So we are still waiting.
All right, so we're still waiting, and that is a call once again for the cabinet. Please ensure, because obviously persons are asking the relevant questions with regards. So thank you very much again, Dr. Faith B. Israel, Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary with Responsibility for Health, Wellness and Social Protection, for joining us here on set this morning at the Tobago Updates Morning Show. And once again, she's giving those gentle reminders, and I've said it for a very long time. Let's maintain the hand washing, folks. I don't think it has to be a law and instruction for you to recognize how important soap and water is. Wow, I feel like my grandmother is talking to me. You know, in those days when you really don't want to, and you say, hey, soap and water, it's important. And, you know, the reality didn't just hit me. I kept saying even up to recently, over the last 2 years of this pandemic, but the reality is, wow, we are in 2023. It's over the last 3 years of treating with this pandemic. So just a little reminder to us, and certainly, again, advice given by the Prime Minister. And now we're also hearing it from our Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary with responsibility for the Division of Health. Let's ensure that we continue to take on that personal responsibility with some of the very basics while we learn to continue living with COVID-19. So there's no need to panic, folks. No need to panic. All right. Thank you very much again, Dr. Faith B. Israel. And coming up next, we will be having, and he's there waiting in the lineup, Assemblyman Trevor James, Secretary with responsibility for the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, as we speak the Tobago Antigua Marine Venture. All right, so we look forward to those upcoming discussions. And at this point, we want to thank you so much for the continued love and support, and for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates Morning Show, and to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.